Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to all our 12th Monarchs out there in Monarch Nation, coming off a historic 59-38 win out at Idaho that puts our record at 7-3, and also our first win against an FBS team. Very pleased with our effort. Everybody involved with our organization on this trip. This one was a long one, 5,400 miles round trip. It was also Idaho's senior day. We were down 14-0 in this game, and we were playing a team that had played well at home. This Idaho team earlier in the season had played Northern Illinois, who's 9-0 right now, ranked number 20 in the nation, to a 45-35 game, a very competitive game. Northern Illinois was a Orange Bowl team last year, played Florida State, so this was obviously a team that was very capable of playing well at home, and we had all these things going against us early in the football game, particularly being in a hole like we were, but we managed to bounce back. The one thing that always impresses me about this team right now is their ability to continually compete. We had stressed the fact going into this game that they were going to be emotional. They were going to run a lot of different things schematically, offensively and defensively. It may take us a little bit, particularly with a young football team, to get up to speed, if you will, in the game on what we needed to do, make some adjustments, and I felt like our kids really stuck to that throughout this game. This was a long football game, our longest of the year. There were 215 plays total in this game, and last week against Rhode Island, that was a long game and 198 plays. So just to give you an idea how many snaps of football we played, we're a beat up, tired football team coming out of this game, but I was very, very proud of our effort to be down by 14 and then to outscore them 59-24 the rest of the game. Really shows the resolve of this football team. For our defense, it was a tale of two halves in terms of our overall performance. In the first half, we allowed 31 points and 334 yards, and 139 of those yards happened on two plays. The opening play of the game, where they had a really nice scheme. We were in man coverage. They ran a pick play where they brought their two receivers from the outside inside on slant routes, and our corner and safety went with them in coverage, and all four of them ended up picking off John Dar, who was trying to get out on the running back. So right away, the first play of the game, they go 73 yards for a touchdown. And we're down. And what I was most pleased with is we continue to show an ability to make adjustments within the game. That was scheme they had come up with during the week. They studied us. They just happened to call the right play at the right time versus the wrong defense for us. And that really put us in a bind, and that showed our youth in terms of how we were not able to bounce back in the first half. But I was really pleased when we got in at halftime, made the adjustments, and then in the second half we held them to 7 points and a total of 171 yards. And their only touchdown drive they had was an 8-play, 67-yard drive in the second half, and that was aided by two penalties against us. One of them was a pass interference on Sandy Chapman that I don't agree with even after watching the video. I thought Sandy made an excellent play, almost intercepted the ball, and then we had an inadvertent face mask on a 3rd and 19 where one of our guys was reaching for the quarterback. And right now, the way the rule is, if you even touch the face mask, if they call it, it's a 15-yarder, automatic first down. And those two penalties kept their only scoring drive alive in the second half. Otherwise, our defense would have pitched a shutout in the second half, which is impressive. You know, as bad as we were numerically in the first half on defense, I felt like we were that good in the second half on defense. So I was very proud of our ability to bounce back. Offensively, 86 plays, 621 yards, 59 points, and after talking to our quarterback and our offensive staff yesterday, they felt like it should have been a lot better. They felt like we stopped ourselves on a couple drives, whether we weren't going to the right receiver or whether the receiver dropped the ball, or we gave up a couple sacks. Everybody felt like this could have been an 800-yard, 70-point performance in the game, but we'll be satisfied, if that's a good way to put it, with that performance offensively. I'm just surrounded by a bunch of perfectionists on that side of the ball, which is a good thing. I felt like our quarterback, Taylor Heineke, played his best game of the year, even though he felt like there were a couple other throws he could have made. The fact that in what was at this time our biggest game of the year, for him to throw for 533 yards and 4 touchdowns and run for another one. A very good performance. We had 10 different guys catch the ball in this game, and those 40 catches. For the first time this year, we had 2 receivers over 100 yards and could have had 2 other receivers over 100 yards in this game. So really solid performance by our pass catchers, and I thought our offensive line overall was outstanding. They had 92 gradable snaps in this game, and we had 71 pass attempts called in this game. And when you look and you see 71 pass attempts called, and there's only 3 sacks, and not all of them were directly related to the offensive line in terms of the sacks or the number of times the quarterback was hit. There were other times when just in coverage something wasn't there. I really felt like those guys up front played a solid football game. Speaking to this week's opponent, Campbell, they're 2-7 coming in. They're coached by Mike Minter, who, as some of you may know, won 2 national championships at Nebraska as a safety. He also had 18 tackles for the Carolina Panthers against the New England Patriots back in that Super Bowl. So I think the athleticism in terms of the head coach matchups in this game clearly goes to Campbell's side. I'll admit that to you right here, right now. I've been impressed with what Mike's trying to do there right now. He's in a rebuilding process. They've got really good scheme, and they compete hard. Offensively, their quarterback, Brian Hudson, has thrown for 1,400 yards, and he's rushed for another 770 after you take away the sacks. He's actually close to 1,000 yards rushing. So this is a dual threat guy that they've got offensively. Defensively, they're playing a lot of guys. They've got 22 players with multiple tackles, so you can tell he's trying to develop some players on defense. But for us, we're just like us. They're coming off a win from last week. I know they'll be excited to play. They'll be excited to come in here, so we've got to do a good job in our preparation. And for us, this is an opportunity to get to 8-3, to get to 4 straight wins, to get to 6-0 at home, which has never been done here, an undefeated season, and to send our seniors off in their last home game with hopefully our 35th consecutive sellout and something that could be special. And I'll take questions.
Coach, what did the winning as Idaho mean for the program in the big scheme of things?
Well, I think it's another, as I said after the game, giant step in our development, just from the standpoint of it's our first win against an FBS team. Also, it puts our record at 7-3, which is critical right now. This program's never known more than 3 losses in one season, and that's something this group is really focused on right now. You know, they want to end this thing on a 5-game win streak. They want to get to 9-3, but to get the first FBS win was critical, because now the conversation isn't about, well, you've got to get that first win against an FBS team. That's another one that's checked off in the box. Another one that these kids in this program have done. Another first that they've accomplished, and I'm very, very proud of the guys that have done it, because has been pointed out by some members in the media who pay close attention to this. Not everybody who's transitioning this year is having success. You know, when you look at Georgia Southern, I think they were 5-4, and I think App State's 2-8 right now. So there's some other teams that are transitioning, and they're doing it playing a Southern Conference schedule. You know, we're doing it playing 5 FBS teams this year. So for us to get that first win was critical, and for the attitude, the planning, preparation, the execution of the guys that are on the team right now, it was very important for them. That was one very happy locker room after the game.
I see the signs again. Focus on the process of winning.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any? Is winning the only gauge to how successful you are in that, or are there other things that you look forward to? As to, all right, we are doing well.
Right. Yeah. Winning is always the number one gauge, you know, because that leads to so much more. That leads to, particularly for the players, their confidence level, for everybody within the organization, you know, in terms of feeling good about what we're doing in the process. But still, the most important thing to me is to see the improvement. To see the improvement from where we've come at the start of the year, particularly with all the new players that are involved right now, with those 34 that are playing. You know, I look out there Saturday and there's another freshman starting. You know, there's Sandy Chapman starting at corner and performing well. You know, I couldn't have been any more proud than to see him get that last play of the game, get an interception. That's another true freshman, though, to see that development from guys who weren't playing at the start of the year. Some of them, like Sandy, didn't play against East Carolina, to now see where we are. So that development is critical right now, and to be able to go into the off season with wins and with development, that's also critical.
Bobby, what did you all do better defensively in the second half against Idaho?
Had our eyes in the right place. I mean, that was the biggest thing, Dave, the biggest fear that the defensive staff and that I had going into the game, with as much as a Petrino offense does, because this is Bobby Petrino and Paul Petrino, and it's a good scheme. They've got very good scheme, and if your eyes aren't in the right place, then people get cut loose. Like you see on that first play, they go 73 yards, or on the throw to Epps for a 66-yard touchdown. They have very good scheme, and we got our eyes out of position, so then we got our bodies out of position. We were out of position a lot in the first half, and what we did in the second half is got our eyes in the right spot. Then we were in position to make plays, and I could see in the second half, once we were in the right position, we were just gaining confidence. Our defensive players were getting so much more confidence, and then that really, you could see that in the fourth quarter when they were going, they were going 3 and out, or we were getting turnovers at that point, how much confidence our guys were gaining. But it came down to as simple as that, Dave, just getting our eyes in the right spot.
Would you have been able to, would your defense have been able to pull off something like that a month ago?
Probably not. No, probably not, particularly with the adjustments, with being able to do that. I think back to the start of the year, we weren't capable of that at East Carolina. We weren't capable of that against Maryland. We weren't capable of that against Citadel and what they were doing. It really started for us in the Liberty game, where there were adjustments that I felt like the kids were starting to grasp, and it's continued in that direction. I felt it again in the Pittsburgh game, because at Pittsburgh they had 21 at the half, and we gave up a punt return for a long one, but I felt like in the fourth quarter we shut them down, and there was a lot of progress that's been made each game going up through, and statistically we'd shown it in the last 4 weeks. It just didn't look pretty in the first half of this one, but to see those kind of adjustments, and to see that at halftime, when we go in at halftime, Dave, the offense and the defense split, and the coaches will meet initially and we'll talk about what we've got to do, and then we go with the players. And when I went in with Coach Nagy and the defensive staff, when they're in with the defensive players, I can see the kids are grasping what he's asking for. One of the big adjustments we did was we came out and we doubled Epps, the wide receiver, in the second half. He killed us in the first half. He had 150 yards receiving. Second half, he might have had 4 catches for minimal yards. But we were double teaming him. So then that took them out of what they were doing. We got after the quarterback a little bit more. So when I see that now at halftime, when I see what Coach Nagy's doing, then I see the eyes are on him, and I see they're able to comprehend it. We're making a lot of growth in that area, and that's going to lead for really good things in the future, because I've always felt like the faster players can comprehend information and anticipate, the faster they can play. And there are times when we look really fast on defense on the field, especially when we know what we're doing.
Coach, what would a win Saturday do, with all the implications, another sellout, senior day, undefeated at home? What do you think that would mean to the fans and also the players and the school as a whole?
Yeah, I think it would be another historic event for everybody involved, because I've always felt like it's not just this team, it's everybody that's associated with it. It's Old Dominion University, it's everybody that's in the community, it's all of our administration. So first and foremost, to have that 35th consecutive sellout, that would be tremendous, because I don't think we're going to have any issues next year selling out our games, with the newness to it, with the teams that'll be coming in here, being FBS officially, playing for a conference championship next year. I think that motivation level is going to be high for everybody. I know it is for us, for the team. So if we can get this one sold out, get to 35, then that streak's just going to continue to roll. But for the seniors, this is a huge moment with the possibility of being 6-0. That's one of the big stamps they can put on their program. because those kids haven't been able to play for a championship. There's nothing beyond November 23rd for them, where there has been the last 2 years. When I talked about this yesterday in the team meeting with our players, that's important to them. That's something they want. That's another first to be done, to be undefeated at home when nobody else has done it. And it's especially important to the seniors to do that. So I know they're going to be very focused on that. The other thing that gets us to 8-3 and a 4-game winning streak. So now we would have an opportunity to go to North Carolina to potentially get to 9. And another one the seniors have got is they don't want to lose more than 3 games. No previous class here has done that. So they want to be able to get to that one. And the last thing we talked about yesterday as a team is I showed the players that right now in terms of the FBS independent teams, okay, the teams that are declared to be independents this year, there's 7 of us total, excuse me, in Notre Dame, Brigham Young, Navy, Army, Idaho, and New Mexico State. And I put this graphic up and showed them yesterday when I was showing them what's left to play for. And right now we're 7-3. We're tied with Notre Dame for the most wins of an independent. We have the same record. Brigham Young 6-3, and then there's Navy, Army, Idaho, New Mexico State. Interestingly enough, Ted, I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a game played at Heinz Field this weekend in which Pittsburgh beat Notre Dame 28-21. So as I said to our players, I said, that's the team that played for the national championship last year. And they went in and, lost a close game to Pittsburgh, not unlike we did. So I'm always trying to create some relevance to what we're doing and show them some different angles of what we're doing and show them that as an FBS independent that they're right there right now. So another goal they've got right now is trying to end up with as many wins, if not more, and definitely no more losses than everybody else that's an independent. So there's all those things right now we're trying to keep our eyes on and keep focused. And I'm a firm believer that from my presentation as a head coach, we've got to keep them focused on that process and why winning is important and why it's important to keep doing what we're doing, not only for this year, but for what they're setting for the future of this program. And those are tangible things that they can see and goals they can reach for.
Hey, Bobby, you guys have handled Campbell pretty decisively the last few times you have met.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're coming off the one FBS win, and
Right.
you have North Carolina ahead. Is there any concern on your part about a letdown?
About the ebb and flow of this season?
Something like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's gone from, same thing happened when we came home from Pittsburgh. Then we go over and play Norfolk State, and we don't keep our focus on what we need. And we talked a lot about that, Dave, about the planning, the preparation, the execution. And I always remind the players, I try to do this every week to get them to understand to respect all and fear none. That doesn't matter who we play. We have to keep the focus on Old Dominion right now. And even more so when you play a team that you've had success against, a team that the kids can look at and see their record. And I try to keep them from being influenced by people outside the organization who might tell them something different than what we're talking about, this process we have to stay focused on. And it's critical from the standpoint, Dave, if we're going to keep growing as a program, and if we're going to get better, and if we're going to have any influence over what happens next year in Conference USA, we've got to keep making progress. Because every rep right now is critical. Every rep we have on the field is critical, particularly for all these guys that are playing, that this is their first time playing college football. We're trying to get them better all the time, regardless of who we play. So that'll be our focus this week on what we need to do. And from my standpoint and the coaching staff standpoint, that's the challenge, to keep everybody understanding what the goal is each week. And we've got to keep getting better, because I don't think we're anywhere near where we're capable of being right now. I don't think we're anywhere near as good as we can be as a football team, particularly when I see what happened in the first half of this game. I mean, when you look at this and say, wait a minute, you're down 14-0, but you won by 21 points, that there's something wrong with that. And that's because we have this is us this year. This is the ebb and flow of who we are. The excuse could be it's related to the schedule, but
Surf's up.
yeah, Surf's up. I want Surf to be up this week. You could talk about it's because of the schedule, but I don't buy it. I think if our focus is on what it needs to be, our improvement, then it shouldn't matter, what the name is on the other jersey that we play. It should be about what we're doing, and that'll be the challenge.
Bobby, is there any update on Josh Mann?
Yeah, Josh is going to have an MRI. We're trying to get it scheduled for today or tomorrow, but when I talked to Dr. Schaefer after the game, he said to me he was 90% sure that he tore his ACL. Which, if that's the case, then obviously he's out for the season, and we'll have to work through that process after. But I talked to Josh. I was with him Saturday after the game. We talked at length again yesterday, and he's in good spirits, as good as he can be, and he knows this is going to be a long, tough road. But the goal would be that we'd have him back ready to go by the start of next season. And it's unfortunately it's that time of year. We've got 25 guys right now in the injury report that are banged up. We've got obviously now with Josh and Bourne, that's two very valuable members of our offensive line, two outstanding performers that are out for the year. Gerard Johnson did not play in this game, but I would list him as probable for this week. He dressed for the game. He might have been able to play here in an emergency situation, but we were trying everything we could not to have to play him in the game. And then Anthony Wilson, linebacker, and Eric Lewis, D-back, they're out for the year. So there's 5 starters right there. And then there's 20 other guys that they're bumped, bruised. I'm going to cut back on practice this week. We're not going to put any pads on during the week, and this is not unlike anything we've done in the past. I always felt like we've done a good job at the end of the year managing our players and their injuries, and I think the proof's in how we've been able to win at the end of the year. So we've got to do a really good job of managing this group. The biggest difference area with this team is that because we're so young, they haven't had that development in the weight room with Ryan Martin and Joe Magovic. Some of these younger guys this is a hard season for them that they're going through. So we'll have to do a really good job in the next 12 days managing their workload.
Can you talk about what Josh means for your offense? I mean, every play starts with him.
Yeah, that will be our biggest challenge as a standpoint of when you lose your center. There's the idiosyncrasies that your center and quarterback have worked out that sometimes you don't even know about as a coach, or the other linemen don't know about, and they played a lot of football together. The fortunate thing for us, Harry, is that Troy Butler's been playing center during the year. Troy's been involved in some critical snaps and some critical games for us. So it's not as if he's going in the game and he's never been in the moment. So we feel very comfortable with Troy going in there, and then Tyler Compton is his backup, and we'll work one of the other guys, just some snaps to have an emergency third guy. Connor Mewborn's done some snaps during the year. Jack Lowney has done snaps, and one of the things that between Brian Scott and Bill D, Kyle Jolly, our offensive line coaches, they do a good job of is guys play multiple positions. So, for example, in the Pittsburgh game, we could move DJ Morrell to guard to line up against Aaron Donald. We've had guys play other spots, so it's going to be hard losing Josh and not having him in there. But I feel like we'll be able to, to move forward with the group of guys we've got and how versatile we are up front.
Any other questions for Coach?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, 12th Monarchs. We look forward to seeing you Saturday at 1 o'clock at sunny SB Ballard Stadium for our 35th consecutive sellout.